Hey YouTubers, it's your girl Shannon from Tesla and Chill, and like you saw on the thumbnail and in the title of this video, we are going to go check out the Ford Mustang Mach-E today, the pre-production car. I am so excited about this. If you guys have seen any of the other videos on my channel, you know I've already test driven the Audi e-tron, the Jaguar I-Pace, and the Nissan Leaf, and all those cars have really great qualities, but I really feel like the Mach-E is going to be probably the first direct competitor to a Tesla Model Y. So I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited to share it with you. Again, I'm going to keep this intro like super short because you really clicked on this video to see the car. Am I right? But in this video, I do want to talk about the design of the car. I want to talk about the technology, the range, the functionality, the price, the notoriety it brings. So we're going to address all of those things today. Now, we have about 20 minutes to get to the dealership so we can check it out. We'll hit the road and we'll get going. So we got to Battlefield Ford in Virginia, and Ford Corporate did a really good job putting on this event. It was really neat. They brought out 2 of their Mustang Mach-E's. They had a free barbecue station set up so you can hook yourself up with some food, and they had a little tent set up with some of like their professionals who were able to answer questions about the vehicle. But let's talk about the vehicle itself because you guys, it looks legit. I'm really impressed with this design. I think it's sleek, it's modern, it's sexy. Now I have to say, look-wise, it's not as polarizing as a Tesla, but I do think it's going to turn more heads than I think a lot of ICE vehicles I've seen lately. So this looks really cool. And I think one of my favorite features, this is kind of reminiscent of, I think, like maybe the Mercedes GLC. It's kind of deceptively, it has this coupe look. So if you see in the back, it kind of slopes downward. But a lot of people don't like that because I think it kind of takes space away from the trunk. But you can see here that Ford actually, they did make a full-size like SUV back to it, but they just blacked out the top of it. It still has that look of the coupe because, you know, it's able to curve down. You see the color just drags down. It's still got that nice, beautiful curve in the back, but the blacked out part where it's able to fully extend, you still get the full use of that SUV. So I really like that. I think that was a really genius move on Ford's part. So the trunk, those dividers in there that you see, those are only for pre-production vehicles. Those dividers won't be in there once the cars actually start rolling out. But this is what's so cool. Okay, you see what I'm pointing to down there? That is a drain. So that means that your car can double as a cooler. So if you're going on a road trip or if you're tailgating, you can just dump ice straight in there and then just like pull the plug at the end and all the water will drain out. This is something really small, but I think this is a really cool feature. Now, as good as this vehicle looks, we have to talk about range and price because, hello, those are some of the biggest factors when purchasing a vehicle. Now, the Mach-E, it has 5 trim levels here. Now, starting out at just the base model, it starts at $43,000. Going up over those 5 trim levels, the most expensive one, the GT version, that's going to start you out at $61,000. Now, range-wise, just like Teslas and other vehicles, just because you're buying the most expensive vehicle, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the most range. But range-wise, Ford is estimating here that their vehicles are going to get between 210 miles to 300 miles, depending on what kind of drive level you get and if you buy the extended range battery. Of course, if you get like rear-wheel drive, that's going to be different range than all-wheel drive. But let's look at some quick numbers here because Ford is estimating right now that charge-wise, the Mach-E can charge up 61 miles in 10 minutes. So that sounds pretty good, but let's do a quick comparison because looking at a Tesla, the Model 3 long-range version, that's estimated to charge 75 miles in 5 minutes. So that's still actually pretty lengthy when you look at the numbers. But the Mach-E, it can charge using both the CCS chargers and the J1772. Right now, of course, Ford doesn't have that charging infrastructure like Tesla, so they are relying on those third-party chargers. Let's look at the inside of the car. Now to get there, you have to use the door handle, and you can see you push the button and the door pops open a little bit, and then you use the ledge that sticks out of the window trim to pull it open. And I have to say, I'm really not a fan of that. I think it looks cool not having a door handle there. That makes it look sleek and modern. But the ledge, I'm just really not a fan because I really just imagine pollen and dirt building up in there, and I think that's going to be nasty. But I don't think that ledge adds anything. If you see in the back doors, there wasn't any ledge. You just push the button and the door pops open a little bit and you just pull it open the rest yourself. I wish that's how the front doors were too. Looking at the inside here, I think Ford definitely took a more minimal approach, kind of mimicking a little bit of Tesla. Now the door latch, that is something different I've never seen before on a car there. But I like that they did the driver's display. I think it's in a pretty convenient location. I wish the things were kind of like put on the windshield like some other cars do, but I can handle this. Now we'll talk about the Infotainment Center in just a minute, but you can see again, they really took a minimal approach here. I like that the dash and the steering wheel, nothing's cluttered with a lot of buttons. There's even a place for your sunglasses, of course, because you gotta look cool. And that visor, it was a really good size. I was actually surprised at how wide it was, even just width-wise and lengthwise. But look at that driver's display. That's really only gonna display your most crucial information, your speed, things like that, directions if you're driving. The infotainment screen, it's vertical, you guys, and there is that big dial right on the front. And that big dial, I have to say, honestly, I think it felt a little bit cheaper to me. I wish it was a higher quality material, but that big dial is only used for the volume right now. That's a little bit excessive, you guys. But again, that dial, Ford said that they are going to be able to do over-the-air updates. It's equipped with all the hardware it needs for the foreseeable future. So over-the-air updates, they're thinking that one day that dial might be able to also control your temperature. So one big dial can only do one thing, maybe soon two things. But the touchscreen, you can see it was super responsive. I really, really like this. It's able to pull up everything you need as far as directions, places you might frequent, and charging stations. And the Ford employee was super excited that with the app, you can also find charging stations, and then your phone can also act as a key, and it also comes with a key fob. Personally, I think having key fob is a little bit excessive because that's just one more thing for me to lose. But we have to talk again about the screen because it is vertical, and I've complained about this in the Model S and the Model X for Tesla. I really think horizontal screens are the way of the future. When you're watching something on your phone, you turn your screen horizontal. When you're watching TV or if you go to the movies, those screens are all horizontal too. I hope one day regulations will change. Maybe we'll be allowed to look at our phones when we drive, maybe watch movies, and we're gonna wanna do that on wide screens. And you also saw real quickly the camera system. It does have the 360 camera. I think just like most cars do, sensors and cameras are just becoming more prevalent, which I think is really good safety-wise. Now I'm going to pause the screen here real quick because I thought this was a really clever feature that Ford did. In the drive modes, you can see there are 3 settings there, and those are going to be your loudness settings. So whisper mode, that's going to be when the car is going to be at its quietest. That's when you're really going to know you're in an electric vehicle. But because this is a Mustang, Ford had to throw in the unbridled mode, and that's going to be when the car is going to be at its loudest. So you'll be able to hear when you push the gas pedal down, you'll be able to hear that propulsion. You'll be able to hear all the sounds that you kind of think of when you think of a Mustang. So I think it's kind of clever. Is it necessary? Probably not, but it's a really cool thing that Ford did. I think it kind of goes to separate their brand a little bit more from the other EVs that are out there. Let's check out the back seat here. It was really, really spacious. I'll show you guys my legroom in just a second. But just like a lot of other SUVs and even cars now, they did have the 60-40 split in the back. Now look at the seats here. I do want you to notice that it kind of is reminiscent of taxi seats. The seats aren't super bolstered like you would kind of expect. Like Mustang, you think a sports car, you think it drives fast, you want to be really kind of cradled in your seat. But these seats were really flat. They had a little bit of cushion to them, so they were fairly comfortable for the few seconds I was in there, but I was really expecting something a little bit more contoured to my body. You can see right here, I'm 5'4", my legroom, I had a pretty significant amount, and that was with the front seat being midway back, so not too close, not too far. It had a really good view of the front, and it did have some air vents in the back and then some USB ports back there, so that was very nice. But again, nothing too surprising. I think a lot of car companies are doing that now. But you guys, notice how many times you see the Mustang symbol and logo all over the car. Ford is telling the customer that they are standing behind this vehicle. I mean, the Mustang has been so iconic. I think that bringing it back and saying that this is their first electric vehicle that's going out to the mass market, and they're behind this, they're not giving it some sort of crazy kooky name that if it flops, they can just, scrap it and forget about it. No, they're putting the Mustang name on this, so that's a really big deal. Ford is giving, again, a lot of care, a lot of time to this. So they're really expecting this to kind of open the doorway for the rest of their fleet. One of the employees told me that the next car that they're going to work on is going to be converting their transit vans to electric, and then the Ford F-150s. So Ford is working on the whole fleet, and then eventually they're going to start to maybe think about getting into the infrastructure game for charging. So Ford is behind this 100%. Let's talk about that trunk real quick because again, it is that full-size SUV in the back. Even though it has that curving slope to make it look like a coupe, you still get full use of the trunk. There's no underneath trunk like a double trunk like the Tesla has. It just has that one like flat bottom piece. But the employee said they can drop it maybe a few inches if you need a little bit of extra space, but underneath they only have room to store the charging cables and a flat tire kit, which is actually nice that it comes with that flat tire kit. I kind of appreciate that. But it's pretty spacious, as you can see. I feel like it's pretty straightforward again for an SUV. But I do want to circle back again real quickly to what I was mentioning before with Ford standing behind this electric vehicle and this being the first kind of vehicle that they're releasing to the mass market here. I did notice that the majority of people that were there checking out the car seemed to be in their 40s and above. So I thought that was really, really interesting. I think this is a vehicle that isn't necessarily for like early adopters of technology, kind of like what I would group Tesla owners in, but it was definitely more advanced than a typical ICE vehicle, of course. So I think it was a really good middle of the road, kind of a safe car for Ford. I think that was like a really smart move on their part. And before we wrap things up, I have to talk one more time about the technology aspect of this, because when you buy the Mustang Mach-E, you do get the Ford Co-Pilot 360, which is basically a suite of technologies that is going to assist the driver when they're driving. So it'll be able to do things like emergency brake when a pedestrian's detected. It'll have that blind spot monitoring. It'll have the lane keep assist. It'll kind of have that smarter cruise control where it'll be able to accelerate and decelerate when it needs to. It'll have, again, the rear backup cameras that you saw and the auto high beam. But it's not going to be, I feel like, as advanced as even what Tesla is doing right now. You know, they're in their beta stages of testing the full self-driving. So the Mach-E, I don't think it's going to be at that level, but it's definitely getting in that direction, which is really promising. I think that's probably more advanced than a lot of cars are right now. I feel like, to me, it's probably a step above what my Honda Accord Hybrid can do right now. So this is really promising. I think it's heading in the right direction. Well, thanks for watching. That's all I've got for you guys. If you found this video to be helpful or entertaining, or even if you've just watched up until this point so far, do me a favor and please hit that subscribe button because it helps to grow my channel. Drop me your comments below too. I would love to know your thoughts on what you think about the Ford Mustang Mach-E. And if you think about any other competitors or electric cars that you think are really cool, I would love to know about it. So drop me a comment below. That's all I've got. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.